In this episode of the Range Minded Podcast, I drink an energy drink before I start a show, and it makes me kind of jittery, but you'll see how. The ATF is going after muzzle devices. We got to look into that a little bit deeper. Plus, speaking of the NFA, there might be something cool coming out of from Senator Tom Cotton that we're going to talk about as well. Plus, we monologue for a little bit. Anyways, I hope you... Oh, Trump speech. We talk about Trump speech as well. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this episode of Range Mind. I hope you enjoy. I told you, energy drinks, not good to do before the show. I hope you enjoy this episode of the Range Minded Podcast. The other thing is I'm not going to edit that out because it's for reals. I love you guys. Enjoy. All right, welcome back to the Range Minded Podcast. My head's just kind of... I just heard the sickest cover of Sweet Home Alabama. I'm probably not allowed to air that on here because I probably get sued, but look up Frog Leap Studios on YouTube. You will not be disappointed. Oh my gosh. That just kind of pumped me up for tonight's show. Anyway, welcome back to the Range Minded Podcast. My name is Steve. I'm happy to have you guys back with me here again. It's fantastic. It's like all the friends I never knew I had or something. Anyway, so I got a kind of a short show. We'll just kind of go with the flow, see how it ends up. I got a couple topics I want to talk about tonight. First off, before we even jump into the topics, you may have heard some rumblings about something that we've been calling We the People Live. It's kind of a network thing that I got involved with a group of other creators. Right now we're streaming on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Rumble, YouTube, and a couple other places. You can still find the show anywhere the podcasts are available, whether it be Spotify, YouTube again, or whatever. But we're also throwing in some live content that airs all day, every day. So I'm not talking all day live every day, but my show will be available on repeat every day. So if you miss a show when it first comes out, or you want to catch a different show that airs through the week, our content's always there. Now, it's like-minded individuals, so it's all freedom-based, not necessarily two-way content, but freedom-based. What we've been wanting to do and what we've been trying to find but couldn't, so we created it, was a place where people can conversate, can come together and have a conversation about whether it be freedom or guns or politics, but not in a judgmental way. We wanted a place where it was comfortable for everybody to come in and be a group, be a society without being negative to opposing opinions. We want opposing opinions in there so we can communicate and solve problems because nobody else is trying to solve problems. So I hope you can find us. Again, it's We the People Live. Usually, if you look on X, it's going to be there most of the time. Look for my friend Joe Lanu. That's Joe_LNU. And that's usually where stuff is streamed from him. Another place you can find it is Kingdom Radio. Got something in me eyes. Bloody hell, it's got something in me eyes now. What am I trying to do? That's my Australian. You like it? Crikey, a dingo ate your baby. That didn't really sound much like an Aussie. Did you guys know I lived in Australia for 2 years? Very long time ago. Sporting my I Sport Dexter Taylor hat, by the way. This could be a tangent episode. No, I didn't find some crack, but I do have some liquid idiocy. Liquid idiocy. Boy, this is going to be a popper. What do the kids call it? It's going to be a banger of an episode. Should we just jump right into it? We probably should before I really screw this up. All right, so I guess we're going to start with this. Let me transition over. All right. So whether you guys know this or not, let me move this over so you guys can see it a little bit better. So the ATF has been sending out these letters. Let me pull it up on this screen too so I can see what's going down. So the ATF decided that people have been buying devices, muzzle devices, not suppressors, but what's been sold as a muzzle brake, or identified as a muzzle brake from the manufacturer. Now, the manufacturer's name is Lethal Eye. I've never heard of them before, but the ATF is pretty pissed, I guess. And what they're saying is, hey, basically that the muzzle device that you purchased, whether it be, maybe it came on the firearm, I guess. Excuse me for a second. Liquid courage wants out. Whether it be, look at these stinking pop-ups. I hate pop-ups. Boy. Some of them came out. I guess SIG had this issue a few years ago where the muzzle device that sold with the AR pistol, or what, I can't remember what pistol it came on, but it was basically, it really was just a suppressor baffle stack. So this company, Lethal Eye, has been doing the same thing. And I don't know if you can see this letter, so we'll have to read through it together. It says, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives is responsible for enforcing federal firearms laws. The ATF has received information that you have acquired one or more firearm silencer devices marked as muzzle brake, scary air quotes, specifically models M-074, M-079, and or M-099 from KBC Capital LLC, doing business as Lethal Eye. These items may have been classified as firearms silencers and are unlawfully manufactured and or unlawfully imported into the United States. So they're made out of the country. Interesting. Furthermore, firearm silencers cannot be transferred without prior approval from the ATF due to their illegal manufacture or importation, the possession and or subsequent registration of these devices in the National Firearms Registration and the transfer record is also a violation of law. Man, I'll do my best at reading a little bit better. Should I try my radio voice? The unlawful recipient of possession of any of these devices is a felony violation of federal law. These devices are subject to seizure and furthermore by federal government, or forfeiture by the federal government. Your continued possession of any of these devices could result in criminal prosecution, and further acquisition or possession of such devices may subject you to prosecution as well. The Gun Control Act of 1968, as amended, Title 18 U.S.C. Section 921 Alpha 25, defines the terms of firearm silencer as firearm and firearm muffler as any device for silencing, muffling, or diminishing the report of a portable firearm, including any combination of parts designed or redesigned and intended for use in assembling, fabricating a firearm silencer, or firearms muffler, and any part intended only for use such assembly or fabrication. Silencers are subject to the National Firearms Act, Title 26 U.S.C. Chapter 53, subsection 5801. I'm sure you don't want to hear all that stuff. The NFA requires those manufacturing, importing NFA weapons to pre-register with the ATF to receive prior approval for the manufacturing/import. The NFA also prohibits the transfer of ownership/possession any an NFA weapon without prior approval from the ATF. The above-mentioned silencers, at least one of which was transferred to you, were not lawfully manufactured, imported, or transferred. Okay, so basically, that long letter says, hey, you bought something that was sold as a muzzle device, a muzzle brake, but in reality, it is a core to a suppressor. I haven't really been able to find any pictures of these. I did Google Lethal Eye. I should have Googled the KBC Capital, but I Googled Lethal Eye because that's what they were doing business under. And I couldn't find any images of the M-074 or M-079 or M-099. I couldn't find any of these. What I did find was how I first found about this was through James Reeves through the Firearms blog. He posted this and hit through his research and then my own research because I wanted to see what was going on with this. There was a threaded adapter that was still shows available, well, out of stock, but still shows as one of their products. Don't buy it. Don't buy it, please. You're gonna be in big trouble. Anyway, so yeah, the ATF is it's been going around the internet. The ATF is sending letters about muzzle brakes, but when you get down to the tea and biscuits of it all, is there actually silencer cores or a baffle stack or whatever you want to call it, to where a person could easily maybe slide a piece of pipe over or modify it in some way to have an unregistered silencer? So the ATF isn't just being willy-nilly about this. I get it. I despise the NFA. If we could repeal the NFA, I would be totally for that. But it's completely obvious. Whoever's been buying these, it is completely obvious about what the intent is. You're really in constructive intent when you're in possession of one of these things. So if you have one, if you've received one of these letters, be mindful. When I saw the teaser for, and it might have been the Firearms Blog's teaser for their video, like one of the flash hiders that they showed was one that I own. It's not one of these. It's not a Lethal Eye, but it's I can't remember what it is. It doesn't look anything like these ones, but it's like a readily sold muzzle device. So I was like, oh shit, I got one of these, but it's not any of the ones that's he put into this video, and then what I could find from the ATF. So I'm in compliance. ATF, don't get excited. Don't come shoot my dogs. It's okay. I do not own any of these. I've actually never heard of Lethal Eye. Anyways, is this like one of those wish.com things that you buy the solvent trap? I don't know. So anyway, that's kind of crazy. So the ATF is like going nuts over muzzle devices. Again, if you can find, somebody had some images. I don't remember if it was Jared at Guns and Gadgets. He might have had some pictures. I've watched a lot of content on this, and I don't remember where I saw the pictures, but it really is just a baffle stack or a core of a suppressor. I totally get why the ATF is upset about this. You are Ron Swanson. I can do what I want permit probably wouldn't get you out of trouble as far as these are concerned, but you can try it. You can try it. It probably won't end very well for you, but hey, I mean, what are you gonna do, right? What are you gonna do? But there could be a light at the end of the tunnel. I recently came across this as well, which is pretty stinking rad. Let's jump back to the screen share here. So you ever wonder if I look around like this half the time? In fact, a couple episodes ago, it was really obvious because I thought I had the screen share up, and I'm sitting here reading all this content, and I'm just like, derp. My ugly face is bad enough. But when I look like an idiot while I'm doing my ugly face, I guess there's that. Let's see. I'm going to enlarge this one a little bit so you get to see my ugly side of my face here. So this is exciting. We just talked about the ATF being silly with some stuff. Let's transition this over so you don't just see my fat face. All right, check this out. So Senator Tom Cotton has a remedy for you people getting struck down and kicked in the teeth by the NFA. So he's come up with this, and along with some of his colleagues. This is actually pretty dang cool. Oh, I got a little burpy burp that doesn't want to come up. So I'll try not to read this in the radio voice, but if it comes out, it comes out. Let's just start at the top. This came out, this press release was May 15th, so we're 6 days ago from the time of this recording. All right, Cotton colleagues introduced bill to repeal the tax on certain firearms purchases. This is going exactly where you hope it will. Washington, D.C., Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas today introduced the Repealing Illegal Firearm and Liberty Excise, the Rifle Act. I love it when they use acronyms. The legislation would remove burdensome tax imposed on firearms regulations under the National Firearms Act. Hey, this sounds fun. Senators John Barrasso, cool, of Wyoming, Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, John Cronin, who is a trader, of Texas, Kevin Kramer of North Dakota, Steve Daines of Montana, Deb Fisher of Nebraska, Cynthia Loomis of Wyoming, Roger Marshall of Kansas, Mark Wayne. It really is Mark Wayne. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make fun of your name, but you are from Oklahoma, Mr. Mark Wayne Mullen from Oklahoma. Boy, I probably shouldn't drink energy drinks before I do a show. Pete Ricketts of Nebraska, Marco Rubio, that surprises me, of Florida, Rick Scott of Florida, are all co-sponsors of this legislation. And Congresswoman Ashley Hinson of Iowa has introduced the companion legislation in the House. So this is pretty rad. Let's jump down a little bit more. This is from Senator Cotton. Law-abiding Americans who exercise their Second Amendment rights should not be subject to unnecessary taxes and restrictions preventing them from doing so. Passed into law in 1934, the National Firearms Act needs to be amended. Our legislation will remove the red tape that places an undue financial burden on would-be gun owners, said Cotton. The federal government, this is from Congresswoman Hinson, the federal government should not be placing financial barriers on inalienable rights of Americans. It is unconstitutional tax on certain firearm purchases is a direct violation of the Second Amendment and must be repealed. As the Biden administration and Democrats push proposals that unlawfully target law-abiding gun owners, I will continue to stand up for Iowans' right to keep and bear arms. Sweet. All right, so here's a little bit of background on part of this bill, and then we're going to read the text of the bill, which I promise you is way shorter than you think it might be. All right, background. In 1934, the National Firearms Act, or the NFA, as we endearingly call it, regulates short-barreled shotguns and rifles, fully automatic firearms, suppressors, and a catch-all category of explosives. In addition to background checks and registration, NFA regulated items have a $200 tax. The ATF has acknowledged the tax was intended to curtail, if not prohibit, transactions of firearms. The $200 tax, unchanged since 1934, is equivalent to $4,648 in today's dollars. Since 2018, ownership of NFA-related regulated items have grown by more than 250% as more sportsmen, shooters, and firearm enthusiasts exercise their Second Amendment right. The Rifle Act does not modify the current checks and registration. It solely removes the federally mandated financial burden on law-abiding gun owners. The legislation is endorsed by the National Rifle Association, the scary NRA, and the NSSF, which is fantastic that the NSSF is jumping in on the bill. So let's check this out. Now, I promise you this isn't as boring as some of the other stuff as far as introduced or proposed bills that have been in the past. So I'll try and read this. It's kind of hard for me to see this on the screen. You'll see my mouse kind of bouncing around on there too. To amend, so 118 Congress. This is the text of the bill. To amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to repeal the firearm transfer tax and for other purposes. I wonder what they mean by for other. Just might be legalese. In fact, I'm going to open this over here. I think it's going to be easier for me to read on this other screen. Just give me a second, okay? I hope you guys like this content as much as I do because I kind of geek out about this stuff. All right. Let me move my mouse. We'll scroll down so you can see it. A bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to repeal the firearm transfer tax and for other purposes. 1. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled. Section 1, short title. This act may be cited as the Repealing Illegal Freedom and Liberty Excise Act, or the Rifle Act. Repeal of the certain taxes relating to firearms. Firearms transfer tax repealed, Section 5811 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 is hereby repealed. Confirming amendments. Let's go down here. I got to make sure we get, because I'm reading it on a different screen. You guys got to see this too. Okay. All right. Section 4182 alpha of such code is amended by striking on which the tax provided by Section 5811 has been paid and inserting with respect to which the tax provided by Section 5811 as an effective immediately before the enactment of repealing illegal firearms and Liberty Excise Act would have applied for its repeal. Section 5846 of such code is amended by striking 5811. Section 5852 of such code is amended by striking Section 5811. In fact, it just goes through like what it's going to do, this bill. I'm not going to read it all. Effective date. The amendments by this section shall apply to transfers after the date of the enactment of this act. Nothing in this act shall be construed to place any firearms regulated under Chapter 53 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 under the jurisdiction of the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission. That's it. That's the whole bill. Like, last time we read a bill, it was pages, and I had to skip. It was like, it was probably the Safer Communities Act, and it was like stupid 500 pages or some BS. So that's good, right? So here we are. We're worrying about devices that the ATF wants to regulate and say you can't have that, which I get why they said that, again, because they were actually suppressor cores. But Mr. Cotton jumps in and says, whoa, hold your horses there, friends. Let's just repeal the $200 tax stamp. Now, I would be all for this. In fact, actually, strike that. I would be willing to pay the $200 tax stamp if suppressors and SBRs and SBSs were off of the NFA. That is way more appealing to me than taking off the tax. So Cotton had it close. Now, I know some of you guys are saying, like, well, the NFA is BS. It should not exist. I agree. But there needs to be, and I know this is like the I'm a gun owner but argument. I can understand why we would have some kind of, I wouldn't say restriction because it's not. An extra step is still a restriction, right? I can get it with some full autos. I totally understand it. But I still think the only inhibiting factor for owning arms would be a capitalist environment. It should be like a financial obligation or financial boundary, not implied by the federal government, but by the market itself. Does that make sense? Should we be able to own F-18s? Yeah, absolutely. Should we be able to own a tank? 100%, because you can currently buy a tank. Yeah. The only inhibiting factor should be cost, but not implied by the government. It should just be the market setting that ceiling of cost. In my opinion, I could be wrong. I do understand the people the anti-gun folks who worry about fully automatics on the street. I totally get that, but here's the problem. We're seeing this whole thing with the Glock switch, right? Everybody's saying, hey, that Glock switch, Glocks are fully automatic. And thugs are getting them. So Glock it's their fault for, supplying these Glock switches, which is asinine because we all know Glock does not just sell 18s to everybody. I've tried. Hold on a second. Yeah. Okay, I gotta calm down. Note to self. No energy drinks before a show. No bueno. Okay? I'm probably going to have an aneurysm here in a minute. So, I like where Senator Cotton's going with this proposal, with repealing the tax stamp. I get it. But it's not deep enough. And maybe he's thinking this is a gateway into getting the NFA stuff gone, which is where it should be. But really it's just taking out the tax, which is fine. I'm actually extremely surprised that the left has not increased the tax to fair market value or whatever, to adjust for inflation. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm really surprised they haven't done that. I could see that taking effect way easier than some of the other stuff that they've tried. Gotta adjust my headphones here. And my hat. By the way, I stand with Dexter Taylor. Innocent man in jail for 10 years for not breaking any federal laws. Side note there. Okay, let's shift gears. Let me see if I can find what I'm looking for here. I'm probably not going to play this video. I don't really want to play the video because it's really, really long. I wonder if I can just expand. All right, give me a second here. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic. All right. So if you're watching the live stream on Saturday, this is just what you're gonna get, okay? So if you watched the live show the other day on Saturday, we did a We the People live from like, what was it, Saturday at 11:30 to like 5 or 6 in the afternoon. It was long, and I was really tired after that. But we covered the president's speech. You can see, I guess it's over here. Here. You can see the president's speech. We're not going to watch the speech on here. It's too long. But I have some thoughts about it. If you didn't watch the live, maybe you didn't even watch the speech. Now, I had some anticipations on what this speech should have been about. Now, obviously, the NRA convention, or the NRA show, whatever you want to call it, it's a big deal. It is a big deal. So, SHOT is not open to the general public. You have to be in the industry. The NRA show is huge. It's not as big as SHOT, but it is a large Pro 2A convention, open to the public. It gives manufacturers and solicitors, or whatever you want to call it, purveyors of 2A content and such forth, and herewith henceforth, gives them all like access to a huge swath of the 2A community, which is awesome. I would love to go to the NRA show. Now, a lot of you know how I feel about the NRA, and I still feel that way. I struggle with the NRA because it's been a mess for years. I did a video on Waylon LaPierre, actually. I did post it on YouTube, actually. You may not have seen it. So here's the former president. Do you still call him former? Here's Donald Trump. And now he's going to speak to this gun-minded crowd. So you'd think he would speak to the crowd a little bit more. I was extremely disappointed in this speech. Maybe some of you guys, maybe I got it wrong. Maybe I completely ignored what I saw. But Donald Trump, this was like the worst speech I've ever seen Donald Trump give. There wasn't a lot of energy. There wasn't a lot of like deep, amazing content. He didn't really speak to his audience that much either. He did mention that only like 20% of gun owners actually vote, which is hideously low. If 2A people got off their duffs and voted, they would make a huge difference, because we know how many gun owners there are in the United States. I mean, there's a lot. Like what they say, 40-something% of households in the United States have a gun. So that means a legally owned gun. That means there's a ton, almost probably nearly the amount. Excuse me. As I'm recording this at 11:30 at night, there's probably a huge portion of Trump voters, especially out of that last 50% of the United States. A huge number of those are most likely gun owners. But there is a much larger portion that sits home and doesn't do anything. And President Trump brought that up, saying, hey, if you got out and you voted, we could make this election totally different. We have to show up. We have to be there to make our voices heard. And I 100% agree with him on that. There's a lot of stuff I did agree with Trump. But it seems so hollow. That speech seems so hollow. He didn't talk about bump stocks because he knows he failed us, but so did the NRA. They did it together. He didn't talk about Safer Communities Act. At least not that I remember. Maybe he alluded to it. He didn't talk about reset triggers. He didn't talk about any kind of SBR stuff. He didn't talk about anything NFA. He didn't talk about national reciprocity. Oh, by the way, we talked about national reciprocity for for policemen. I think we talked about that before. It doesn't matter. The everyday citizen doesn't get that, but I think the policemen, I think that got passed for active duty and retired police officers. They have national reciprocity, but you and I, well, no, we can't. We're too stupid to have it. Anyway, I digress. So the speech was long. Like, it felt like 2 hours. It may not have been. It was long. He was very, very long-winded. But like towards the end of this speech, like I said, I was on a live feed with a group of friends doing commentary. We the People Live. We talked about that a second ago. We were doing the live reaction to his speech, and towards the end of the speech, some music started playing. And I understand what they were trying to do was create this emotion between words and music, trying to enrich the senses of the people he's speaking to. But the music was way wrong. Like, it should have been some very patriotic, some deep patriotic sounding music, but it was like boring, like terrible selection of music. And the context of that speech from the music point to the end, I don't understand it. Like, it literally was the worst speech I've ever heard Donald Trump give. I saw excerpts of a speech that he gave a couple days ago, or Sunday, or let's see, whatever, Tuesday today. Tuesday. So it must have been Sunday or Monday. He gave a speech somewhere else, and that speech was fantastic. He was awake, he was witty, he was off of the prompter for a minute, and it was fun. But why didn't he give that speech or something that was that exciting to the gun owners? If he's trying to rally gun owners behind him to get him to win the election, he needs to be a little bit more specific and a lot more deliberate. I was really disappointed in his speech. You don't have to take my word for it. You know me. I always want you guys to look and see what you think. Do your own homework. Watch the speech. That being said, who's that hairy kid that's on Twitter that's like, he's an idiot. That he's a super Biden supporter. Just like a punk kid. Like, he was making fun of the speech, rightfully so, but like he missed the mark. Like, even he's too dumb to see where President Trump missed the mark. He was like talking about something completely different. So it shows you how dumb some of their arguments are, but honestly, go watch the speech. Tell me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe it was an awesome speech, and I just don't know what I'm talking about. Could be, may not be. Anyway, let's see. What else do I have in the stack of stuff here? Let me swing over here real quick. So let's see. There's that. Nope. I think we've... I think we blasted through this whole episode already. Maybe I should have had a little bit more content ready. Oh, but I can pontificate with the best of them. We did all that in 30 minutes. Whoa. All right, let's I did not anticipate getting through that quick. Let's jump on here and see what some stuff I missed. Oh shoot, there was something I was going to cover. Now I can't remember what it was. It was something on oh man. I guess it doesn't matter. Father's Day. Father's Day's coming up. Oh, I know what I was going to talk about. So it's obviously it's an election season. We've talked a lot about being involved in your local elections. Now, I just found out it was our primary today. Yes, I voted. And as I was recording the show, somebody just texted me, not just, but a few minutes ago, and said something that a person that I extremely support, 100% support. She's awesome, extremely pro freedom. She lost the primary to a guy that I think is a FUD. That's FUDD, if you didn't hear me correctly. I know this guy personally that she was trying to upset. He actually won her seat away from her a few years ago. But he's a guy that pretends to be all about the public, all about the rights. But he made the mistake of saying that he supported red flag laws. And our local 2A group jumped on him, pounced. Now Carrie Hanks is the gal that I support. Now don't get me wrong. I know the guy that she was running. I personally know him. I've been to his house. I have had conversations with him. When he made that ridiculous red flag, look, I'm talking with my hands. When he made that ridiculous red flag law comment, I immediately messaged him and I said, look, I think maybe you made a mistake here. I don't think you think this way, but this is the way it came across. Please let me be your go-to when it comes to firearms and firearms type content. So when you have to make a comment on guns, you don't make the wrong comment. Now I figured, hey, I'd get something back that says, hey Steve, I appreciate your help. I think I got this, whatever it takes, blah, blah, blah. No, he completely ghosted me. He knows my stance on firearms. He knows that I am an absolutionist when it comes to 2A, and he completely ghosted me. He didn't care. Again, I know that I have been to this guy's house, but he doesn't. So, what does that tell me? That tells me that he doesn't really care about his constituents. He doesn't really understand, or he doesn't care about red flag laws. We should probably do a deep dive on red flag laws so we can understand the protection order, whatever it is called, and why it's dangerous, and why. Well, let's just do it right now. So, red flag laws. If you don't understand what a red flag law is, that's let's just say Johnny was a 5-tour vet in Afghanistan. Johnny had a lot of things on his plate when he was deployed, seen a lot of stuff, dealt with a lot of stuff, and suffers from severe PTSD because of his deployments. So, Johnny, this is how it would work in a perfect world. Johnny comes home, he's kind of surviving the world. Johnny's girlfriend notices that he's having some struggles. The PTSD is just really eating him away, and there's some behaviors that make her concerned about Johnny's safety. So, girlfriend calls the sheriff and says, hey, Johnny's acting funny. I'm concerned about his well-being. I'm worried he's going to hurt himself. And he has guns in the home. Sheriff shows up, takes the guns away. And then Johnny gets help that he needs or whatever, or maybe he doesn't. Maybe it's not quite the help that he actually needs, but it's what society thinks he needs. Nonetheless, Johnny tries to get his guns back, but Johnny has to wait a while now because the way his guns were taken, maybe not were categorized the way they should have been. So, that's the way these red flag laws are sold. And it makes sense, right? It's just for your safety and the safety of those around you. It sounds great, but there's some major issues here. Why as citizens of the United States, we have the right to face our accuser. I understand that Johnny's girlfriend is not accusing him of anything, but we also have the right to due process before property is taken away. And we have to be, well, by federal law, we have to be compensated for any seizure. So we can warrantless taps, search and seizures, that kind of stuff, right? It's a no-go in the Constitution. So In reality, the red flag laws violate the Second Amendment and the Fourth Amendment. Major issues, major constitutional issues. Now, in the scenario of Johnny and his girlfriend, it seems really benign. It makes sense. We all want our veterans and their families to be safe. We know that there's 22 veteran suicides a day, roughly. I think that number is actually low. I think there's quite a bit more a day that happen. But I digress. Now let's look at scenario number 2. Bob. Bob is an avid outdoorsman. He works hard. Sometimes he works a little too much. Sometimes Bob just maybe he just tries to escape the world a little bit. He'll hang out in the reloading room instead of hanging out with his wife. They get in an argument, whatever. Maybe it's his ex-wife. Let's just say Bob and his ex-wife have an issue. Because the ex-wife doesn't like Bob, she says, "Screw you, Bob. I'm going to call you in and say that you're a threat to yourself and our children." So she makes a malicious fake, what do you call it, report. Cops come, take Bob's guns. Bob has no guns. Bob's done nothing wrong. Bob was retaliated against by a crazy ex-wife, and his stuff was taken away. The end result is the same as the first scenario. Guns were taken away without due process. There's no compensation, violation against of the First and Fourth Amendments. Big issue. But it was used as a weapon instead of as a help. This is the problem with red flag laws. The weaponization. Now, at some point, when can the government say, if we open this door of red flag laws, the government can start getting to the point where it'll decide who's a threat to society and who's not. What gun owners are troublesome. Big deal. This is a major deal. This is why me and many of my friends despise red flag laws. Because they will get abused. It's not they may or some governments might. They will get abused. Now, the left will say, well, what if it saves one life? Well, it's not saving anybody's life. In fact, it's putting a life in danger via false report, throwing a guy in prison that didn't do anything wrong, or gal. It could go either way. Throwing a firearms owner in prison because they're a firearms owner and somebody hates them. We've all heard the term of being swatted or being doxxed. This happens all the time. The swatting and doxing happens all the time. Now, when we start doing that with red flag laws, there's a major issue. People are going to get killed when they have a no-knock warrant at 5 a.m. The sheriff's office opens the door. Somebody thinks they're getting robbed, and then there's a shootout. That has actually happened. That very scenario has happened. I don't remember where, but I remember reading about it. I want to say it actually happened in Idaho. It may not have. But there was an old vet. The police kicked his door in for his protection. He had a gun. They gunned him down. Boom, dead. It will be weaponized. That's the issue with red flag laws. Now, somewhere there's got to be an answer. There's got to be a place where we can meet in the middle, where we don't violate any constitutional rights, where we don't alienate these people that may have severe PTSD, because that's what originally it was designed for, that can get real help, not just be treated like a criminal, because they're not criminals. They haven't done anything. Real criminals don't care about gun laws. I mean, we see that in deep urban areas where they get Glock 18s or Glock switches, and then we won't get into that. You get what I'm saying. It makes my eyes hurt. Where's the duct tape? There's got to be a safe, feasible, reasonable way we can meet both ends. There's got to be. I don't know what it is. I don't know if you guys know what it is. But the only way we're going to figure it out is if we have good conversations about this. Serious, adult, grown-up, big kid conversations. because our veteran, our veteran suicide stuff is no bueno. And we see a lot of violence in the home. Now, there's a lot of other factors when it comes to violence in the home. There's a lot of other factors when it comes to violence in America when used with a gun. Not gun violence, because it's violence, but they use a different tool compared to violence in other parts of the world. We've talked about this before. The numbers, how it's reported everywhere across the world, it's apples to oranges. There is no uniform report of violent crime or gun crime throughout the world. It's all reported differently. It's all researched differently. So it's very difficult to compare the United States to other parts of the world. Now, we can look at just violent crime compared to other countries. That helps. There are some gun-related crime, or where crime is where guns are being used, homicides, that kind of thing. We can extrapolate some of that data. And when you realize that you take out like 4 of the cities in the United States, we're ranked incredibly low as far as the world gun crime is concerned. But they don't want to tell you that. Oh, and by the way, when they say the anti-gun people say, well, the highest gun crime is in these deep red states. Okay, well, let's look at what districts. If you're going to start pointing fingers, let's look at what districts or what cities or townships these violent gun crimes are taking place. And you'll start to see that it may be a red state like Texas, but you get into Austin and you realize, whoa. Or Louisiana, right? The sportsman state. But then you see, wow, it's like Baton Rouge, and you take that out of the deal. Whoa, like it's totally different. The only way you can really understand is if you start researching the data. I cannot encourage you guys to do that enough. Never take my word for it. Never, ever take my word for it. I'm just a dude. I want you to learn how to do the research yourself. The other thing is you need to start hearing the arguments from the anti-gun side so you can see where they're coming from, even though most of the time it's complete and utter bullshit. But we need to understand their point of view. We might be wrong. Have you guys ever thought about that? There might be part of the pro-gun movement where we are way off. But we're never going to understand that until we listen and communicate the ideas from one side to the other and figure out what's going on. Because, and that's what I like so much about We the People Network, or We the People Live, sorry, is that it's not an echo chamber. It's not just a group filled of, a room filled with the same ideas but different voices. It's a room filled with people from diverse opinions having conversations. That's the point of We the People Live, is we want the conversation because there's nobody else doing it. There's nobody else listening. There's nobody else, taking into account of what's going on. Now, we do get people on there and some of the stuff that some of our X spaces that are a little ridiculous. I get it. But we need to have conversations. Again, because Congress isn't doing it. The news media definitely isn't doing it. There is no politician that's like actually having adult conversations when it comes to where this country is in violent crime. They just want to point to a tool that's being used, or they blame it on a drug, which is definitely part of the problem. But they're only looking at pieces and not the entire, aggregate, not the whole picture. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's why it's so important for you to understand the content, where to find the research, how to extrapolate that data into words so you can have intelligent conversations, so you can, I hate to say the term proselyte, but it really kind of is. But the only way you can proselyte any kind of information is if you know the information. If you can prove the information. And you have to be willing to listen to the other side, or it just doesn't work. It's just impossible. Anyways, I think we'll end it there. I appreciate you guys. I don't get paid to do this. I just come here and do this because I enjoy it. Because I feel like I have something that I need to share with you guys. I try to avoid too much politics, but it's 2A. It's impossible to avoid it all. But I enjoy this. If you enjoy this kind of content, please like, share, subscribe, hit the little red bell if you're watching on YouTube. You can find me on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, or X, whatever, Instagram, TikTok. Having a little trouble with TikTok. And then any of the We the People live spaces on X or the live streams. We want our content to be out there. We have to be active. And the only way I can maintain excitement and well, I still have that desire to share. But it really motivates me when I know there's people that are cheering me on, in a way, I guess you could say. If you want to support the show financially, there is a way to do that. It would be greatly appreciated. I have some things I want to do with the show this year that cost money. Some of it's getting a little bit better equipment and better software. That's definitely part of the game. But I want to take you places that a lot of folks don't get to go. I want to go to a lot of the 2A manufacturers here in Idaho, starting in Idaho. I'm talking Seekins Precision. What's the ammo plant? We talked to one ammo plant. Gosh, why can't I remember the other place? Odin Works. 2A Armory. Like, there's so many. There is a ton of pro 2A groups in Idaho, or manufacturers in Idaho. I want to take you there. I want to visit every indoor range in the state of Idaho, every one of them, and do a live show or record a show, either way, in each one of these facilities. I want you to see how common this is in the state of Idaho. I know some of you guys are outside of the state of Idaho. I totally get it. But that's where the next phase of the show, that's next year. I want to go more places. I want to take you places that you may never get to see. I want you to see other ammunition facilities. I want to go to like places all over the country. I want to take you there. By the way, I'm taking my kid with me. We're going to be at GunCon in Grinnell, Iowa. That's at Brownells, by the way. That should be fun. That is June 29th. So it's coming up. So I hope to see you guys there. Oh, patches. Patches were shipped. They were shipped a couple days ago. They should be arriving anytime. I'm going to work on getting a website available to where there'll be a shop. You can buy these patches. I have 2 different patches right now. Depending on how they sell, I'm going to order some others. So I've got like 30 custom patch designs that I want to make available to you guys. I love patches. I mean, I could never, it's right there, right there. That's my patch wall. That's, I have more patches, and I got to make another wall now because I have more patches. Anyway, range-minded patches will be available. I'm going to start working. I know we've talked about this before, but this is the year. I told you 2024 is going to be a good year for the show. Hats, shirts, still figuring that kind of thing out. I got to figure out how to do, whether it be drop ship or whatever. I want to figure that out soon, because I want to get the merch out there, because it's a big deal to me. The show needs to start carrying its own weight. I'll still do what I can, but I need your help. If, again, there's also ways if you want to do Patreon or, I can't remember, there might be, you can find my link tree too, by the way. If you jump on Instagram, there's a link tree with all this other stuff on there too. Do whatever you want. You don't even have to follow me. I don't care. I'm still going to do this. Love you guys. The Second Amendment is retained by people like you that love freedom, that are stewards of the Second Amendment. It depends on you. Yes, you and you. Even that guy back there that's driving his car that's not really paying attention. It depends on you guys. And we need to be good stewards of the Second Amendment. That is exactly why I encourage you to take somebody shooting, because it's important. Be safe. I love you guys. And don't forget, you can find me on We the People Live. Remember who you guys are and what you stand for. And yeah, peace out.